again with oneBoro. I'm here today with Anthony Vickers asking a few questions, some transfer stuff, some general feel about the way the club's moving forward this summer. So first of all, thanks very much. In the last interview we did with you, obviously Boro were flying really high at the time. You know, we all felt that kind of promotion was it was within our grasp. And I think you said, and I think it's something that we all felt as fans, that it would have felt a little bit like a failure if we didn't go up. In hindsight, having seen through what the club's been through, you know, with the playoffs, the final, with the effort and everything the club's put into it, does it still feel that way, and how has that impacted your views on the upcoming season?
I think it was hugely disappointing because we got so close, and there were several times Boro were top of the table and then they slipped. It wasn't unique to Boro. Every team that got to the top of the table last year cracked and slipped back again, and it was only the two that happened to be there when the music stopped that sneaked over the line. It's very frustrating to have fallen so far short, because we can all look back over games and pick out where those extra 5 points could have come really easily. So the gap is really small. I think overall, in terms of the club's plan, getting to the playoffs was seen as a success last season. It was a quantum leap forward, having 6 years of finishing well short, to actually sustain a challenge all the way along and improve by 21 points over the course of the season. So people taking a sober view within the club would regard the playoffs as a success. But this year, finishing the playoffs would be regarded as a failure. There's an expectation in the club that they can continue to improve. That's everything that I Talk Karanka does every single day is about improving, even by a marginal gain, game on game. And if we continue to do that this season, then automatic promotion is the expectation, and there's no question about that. And anything short of that will be seen as a failure.
But Boro want to raise the bar. They want to get better players. They want to get quality players that are actually going to improve the team, and that is difficult because you're competing with clubs who have more resources. A lot of the targets that the club are after this summer, they've been working on for months, and in some cases years. I mean, for instance, we all know that there's a bidding for Stuani. Well, Karanka spoke to Stuani last summer, and at that point, given the nature of his contract, he was too expensive. With Stewie Downing, there'd been initial contact before the end of last season, and had Boro been promoted, he would have been here already. But the fact that we're a championship club means that there's a massive financial gap that has to be bridged. Boro do extensive scouting now, and most of the people that are going to come in this summer, if it all comes off, you'll know most of them because they're proven championship players, and they're exactly the sort of people that you would pick if you were given the option.
Do you feel then that within regards to the transfer window, that the targets that Boro have, just generally, that those kind of targets are pursuing that aim of the automatic position?
Absolutely. I mean, the club have set out, almost all their targets, bar Stuani and Downing, have extensive experience in this division, and that's viewed as really important. What you have to remember is, a lot of the team are fairly new to either this division or English football, and a lot of them haven't played a lot of football. I mean, if you look at the back line last year, Ben Gibson and Ayala kicked off the season having been relatively rookies, and they've got a year under their belt, and that experience is hugely important. Callas, who's going to be starting at right back, he's only played 15 games in English football. These people are relative novices, and I think it was felt that there were games where they didn't really have the nous or the experience to get the team over the line. And in setting out the targets this year, Boro have tried to fill some of those gaps in terms of the knowledge and the skill set, and they also want to change the emphasis to being more effective up front. They want to bring in some pace, some creativity, and put the emphasis on winning games. Whereas I think we started off last season and the emphasis was on not losing games and being solid. I think they're confident now at the back. They know that they've got a very good defence. The work rate of the team, the shape of the team means they're very hard to beat, but they need to win more games, and inevitably that means goals, and that's what they're going for this year.
Do you think Carriol has a part to play this season? Obviously, he went out on loan towards the end of the season. He's had a bit of an extended break due to his contributions during the summer. Can you see him breaking back into the first team? Do you think that he's firmly in the plans for this season on that left-hand side?
I think he's certainly got a chance. Whenever I've spoken to people high up in the club, that they envisage his pace being part of the change in emphasis, because he is someone that can beat a player. We've seen him do it. I think the problem we have with Carriol is that, having been injured twice while Karanka's been here, he hasn't really gone through the process that a lot of the other players have gone through, which is learning the philosophy and the methodology that Karanka's instilled in everyone. To show an example, you look at Albert Adoma, who a year ago was very similar. He was cavalier, he was a maverick. It was very hard sometimes to harness him to the team. Yet over the course of last season, we saw Albert Adoma become a disciplined team player. I think if Muzzy can adopt the same mentality and go into the season determined to learn how to be a better team player in the way that Albert did, then I think, yes, he has got a role to play, because he's got something that is very precious in football, which is incredible pace.
And what's the latest on Damir? Obviously, with the match-fixing allegations, is that an issue with the club?
In terms of the injury, he's back in light training, he's done his rehab, and he's probably 2 months away from competitive action. So he could well feature this year. In terms of the legal issues in Spain, I'm trying to get to the bottom of how it works in Spain. He hasn't been charged with anything. In Spain, they have an inquisitorial magistrate system. So you get called into court to give evidence in a way that in England, that evidence would be collated by the police, who would then decide whether it was pertinent to the case. And he was one of 32 people that were called into court to give evidence. My understanding is that the main charges are directed at the club officials from 3 clubs. And I can't see anything of substance that's happened since he was actually called into court to give his evidence. So it could well be that as part of their process in Spain, he's finished. I don't know what the timescale would be to prepare a case. So in terms of what happens next legally in Spain, I can't figure it out. It seems to be a very, very idiosyncratic system that we're not used to. Certainly no one at the club regards it as an issue. I mean, he's back in the fold, he's back in the team. If he's fit, he will play.
One of the most popular questions we've had was actually surrounding Aitar himself. Obviously his contract is due to end at the end of this upcoming season. Has there been any noise from the club as to whether or not they're willing to renew his contract, if there's going to be any contract talks?
No, nothing's been mentioned to us. Aitor's made it quite clear that if he doesn't get promoted this season, he would regard it as a failure. So I think at that point he would walk away thinking, I haven't done the job. Should Boro get promoted, I'm fairly sure he will stay at least one more season, because his project here is to build a team from scratch, have it playing in his style, his system. So it's a team that reflects his footballing DNA, to be a success here, to take it into the Premier League, and then I presume to go on to a team in Spain, possibly Bilbao, then on to Real Madrid, and ultimately to manage Spain. I think that's his career trajectory, which is why we don't think he'll take an Aston Villa job or Stoke job, because his project is to make this team a success. And I think that's what will underpin it. If we go up, I'm certain he will stay for at least one more year. If we don't go up, I'm fairly sure he would walk.
We've obviously seen a lot of in-the-know kind of pop-up characters, both Facebook, Twitter. This deal's done, that deal's done. How frustrating is that
Not for me, because I ignore it, to be honest. I think all you have to do is look back on your forum at all the people who said so and so was definitely signing, and figure out the percentage of the hit rate. My only problem professionally is when one of these total fictions gathers a bit of legs and another journalist picks it up and prints it somewhere else, because then I'm expected to check it out even though I know it's a complete fiction. Does anyone seriously think that Boro are going to sign someone who was the top scorer in Singapore, who's just been released by a Spanish second division side? Yet this game gained momentum because, you know, it's a name that's out there and people link to it, and you just think, you know, use your own BS filter. That is clearly, utterly nonsense.
Out of all the transfer stories that you've had the privilege to break on, which has been your favourite?
Jonathan Woodgate was quite good when he came in. We broke that online. It was the very early days of me and Phil having the laptops and the system at home, so we could actually write direct onto the website from home. And that's the value of good contacts and the value of the club recognising how important the Gazette is in terms of opinion forming. With Karanka, most of the other media had him joining Crystal Palace, and me and Phil were down at Rockcliffe having breakfast with our laptops, and we had that, you know, well before everyone else, and incredible detail.
We have a member who's kind of one of the Red Faction lads. They're really interested in kind of pushing for this safe standing, you know, bringing back more of the terrace, trying to create more of an atmosphere, not just at the Riverside but other clubs. Do you think there will ever be a time when safe standing will come back into football? I
think it's inevitable. I mean, there's a political will for it. The Football League have withdrawn their long-standing objection to it. A lot of big clubs are interested in it, and I know Celtic have expressed an interest. Aston Villa have expressed an interest. I think it's only a question of time before a big club does it, and does it properly, so that all the political objections can be removed.
And just to end, it's just kind of a daft one. If you were hosting a dinner party with 3 Boro players, who would you pick and which 3 would you avoid?
Well, you want good talkers at a dinner party, I suppose. You don't want Gaza, because we don't want any light and any farts. The best talkers, while I've been here, probably Bolo Zenden, George Boateng, who is the nicest bloke in the world, and Emmanuel Pogatetz. 3 lovely blokes. You can chat with them. They were human. A lot of players have come through a system where they've been put on a pedestal from the age of 12, aren't necessarily the brightest, and are full of themselves. But, you know, some blokes are just nice, and they're the kind of people you want to invite to your house, aren't they?
So once again, I'd like to thank you for doing this interview with us today. It's fantastic for the forum. We kind of, you know, it's great to have that link between the fans and the Gazette, also with the club. So thanks very much for everything today.
No problem. Keep on reading my stuff. That's the important thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers.